Hello there everybody, it's Asylum here, and welcome back to another Paladins video. It's been a while since we've done one of these, almost a year I believe. So today, we're going to cover some of the history of the realm, and each warring faction that resides in it. So let's start with the main two factions of the game. First is the Magistrate, who we'll get to shortly, and the Resistance. Now let's start with the Resistance. They are an army made up of civilians, with some former Magistrate and Bandit members. They challenge the rule of the Magistrate, because they believe that greed and corruption plagues their hearts. Now the most notable members among this faction are Shaolin, the Desert Wind, Tyra, the Untamed, and Jing. Now, let's speak of the Magistrate. The Magistrate leaders all consist of people with Dragonian blood. Now, if you know anything about people with Dragonian blood in any fantasy setting, any fantasy game, is that greed and power runs through their veins. And because of this, they tend to challenge those who have power or could gain such power. Now, that goes for people that have the ability to use magic, such as Ying. They want to limit any and all potential threats. Now, because of their tight grip on the lives of the common folk, there has been a lot of backlash. However, they never directly dirty their own hands. The Magistrate calls upon many loyal houses. Now, some of the most notable people on the side of the Magistrate are Fernando, the self-appointed knight, Leanne, the scion of most houses, and Vivian. Now, Fernando is on the side of the Magistrate to protect his own secret. He was not born of noble birth, nor of noble title. And the only reason he assumed the mantle of knight was because his knight had an untimely death. So in order to protect that secret, he joined the Magistrate to combat all of those who could potentially leak his dark past. Leanne, the only reason she's with the Magistrate is because she felt that she was honor bound, that her family has served the Magistrate for generations, so why should it change? And Vivian, probably the most notable of the group, quickly rising through the ranks, proving herself time and time again, until eventually she was second in command. But to her, it's all just for naught. As long as she gets the kill, she doesn't mind. Now, let's get into a little bit darker faction. This faction is known as the Abyss. And if any of you played Dark Souls, you will know that the Abyss is not necessarily a good thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. But in most cases, it has a corrupting ability. The Abyss will take someone and change them permanently. Doesn't matter who they were, they are no longer themselves. Now in Paladins, the Abyss is usually contained by the Eternal Pyre, which is another faction we'll get into shortly. But when the Abyss lets loose, it will create doppelgangers, or copies of champions that just wander the realms. Now these champions are much bigger and much stronger than their normal counterparts. But now let's get to the Eternal Pyre, the exact opposite of the Abyss. Now the Eternal Pyre only has one known member, and that is Fuda. Now Fuda's tale is rather sad. Fuda once had a sister, but when the Abyss started to run rampant, her sister was taken and destroyed by the Abyss. Or so he thought. Well, the other sister went to the eternal pyre and prayed. She prayed that she could avenge her sister and prevent anyone else from being harmed like this. And so, the eternal pyre heard her and granted her wish. While losing herself in the process, she became an angel of vengeance known as Fira, the angel of fire. And now she goes around, and any scourge of the abyss that remains is burned away. But now, I did mention that her sister was thought to be dead. Well, her sister came back as a being known as Ceres. Now, Ceres is a strange being. She has this uncanny ability to time travel. She can appear whenever she so wishes. But she can also see past, present, and future all at the same time. To her, she is merely guiding us towards an unseen, inevitable fate. Most likely to our untimely demise, but what can we do about it? Perhaps Genos will know. And now Genos is an odd one. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you have heard the Christian legends of Jesus and his father God. Well, if you take those legends and you look at Genos, Genos is the Jesus of this game. He looked at the stars and sought answers. And when he found them, he ascended. Now, he's been gone for centuries. No one has seen him except for his close cult following. And even then, they're not too reliable of a source. But when the realm fell into chaos once more, Genos descended from the heavens, determined to set things right. Although, if he can combat Ceres is yet to be seen. Now, there's one last ragtag faction, and it's really more of a group. The Fairies of the Summer Woods and the Makoa Islands. I'm going to say they make up the Nature faction. Now, the Fairies of the Summer Woods are few in number, with even fewer females. So when Willow, one of their last remaining females, decides to join the fight to set the balance in nature right, the other members of her people were concerned. Because who knows what could happen if she dies in combat. That's one last person to keep their species going. Fairies may live a long time, but they're not eternal. And then there's Makoa, the hefty turtle from the Turtle Islands, strong, prideful. But he longs for home. He's not sure if he will ever see his people ever again. But he knows that if he doesn't do this, the entire balance of nature will be thrown so far off kilter that the world will just plunge into the abyss. So in a sense, he, in a way, combats the abyss alongside the eternal pyre, but for his own goals. Perhaps one day we'll see Makoa return to his people, or perhaps even more of his people come to us. Now, I mentioned most of the factions, but there's a little bit more we got to get into. Some of the champions are not part of their official factions. Dragaz, a Dragonian, is one such person. Now, Dragaz was not always a flying, mass genocidal murder machine. Dragaz was once a lesser Dragonian slave to the magistrate. But, as time went on, he grew angrier and angrier, and longed for escape. Eventually, a clever dwarven scientist made him a pair of crystal-powered wings that were capable of flight. The mistake was the fact that he could get his wings to work. Now, this dwarf regrets making those wings, but it's far too late. That dwarf has now joined the resistance, so I will not mention him. But Dragaz now flies around with his own small army of lesser Dragonians, and terrorizes both the magistrates and the resistance. And while there are many more characters I would love to get into, there just simply isn't time in this video. So, if you join me for part 2 next time, I would very much love to talk about the other characters and go in a little bit more detail about each and every single one of them. Anyways, this has been the Asylum. Oh, my bad, this has been Asylum. And I hope to see you all next time.